Hey guys, tonight we drift into the realm of the in-between, where silence stretches like linen across the stars, and every breath you take becomes a little less yours and a little more eternal. This isn't a dream. It isn't a memory. It's the soft moment after the last heartbeat and before the next beginning. You awaken beside a river that glows from within. The banks are smooth. The stones hum faintly beneath your fingers. Above you, the sky is deep indigo, pulsing with constellations you almost remember. Not the ones from Earth, but those that once whispered to your soul before your birth. There is no pain in this place, no alarm, just the awareness that something important has ended, and something even quieter has begun. You sit up. You expect gravity, the tug of your spine, the pull of weight, but instead, your body feels feathered. Not light like air, light like intention. You are not your old self. You are something closer now. Closer to essence. Closer to the shape beneath your shape. A breeze passes over the water. You hear no voice, but you feel it. A nudge. A welcome. A beginning. Somewhere across the river you sense movement. Not fast, not urgent. Just inevitable. The flow of something older than time. You probably wouldn't survive this place if you still needed oxygen or explanations. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments, where are you listening from and what time is it for you right now? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand slowly, and your legs remember how to move, though they are no longer made of muscle. You walk to the water's edge. The river doesn't ripple. It waits. You look down, and instead of your reflection, you see moments. Moments that once made you who you were. The way you spoke to a stranger in need. The secret you kept that still glows softly beneath your ribs. The breath you gave to someone else when they needed it more. The river has been watching, not to judge, to carry. The stars above shift, not randomly, but into order. Columns of light forming patterns across the sky. Not constellations, hieroglyphs. The language of what happens after. And just ahead, through the mist, a golden gate begins to shimmer into view. You feel no fear, only stillness, and the faint call of something waiting to be weighed. The golden gate rises from the mist like a question not yet asked. Its edges are not rigid. They shimmer like heat over desert sand, as though reality bends politely around its sacred presence. You walk closer, and with each step, your breath deepens. The stones beneath your feet are warm, not hot, not demanding, just enough to remind you that you are here, that you have form, even if it no longer obeys gravity or decay. The gate is not locked, but it does not open, not until you remember something. And so you pause. Ahead, symbols ripple faintly across the surface of the gold. They are not etched. They are alive. They move like thought, like memory. They glow not from flame, but from recognition. You place your hand on your chest. There is no heartbeat, but there is pulse. And inside that pulse is a name. Not the one you were given. Not the one you wrote on paperwork. Not the one people shouted or whispered. But the one your soul still answers to when the universe speaks softly. You speak it now. Or rather, you let it rise. The name has no language. It is made of tone, of color, of breath, and the gate breathes with you, then dissolves, not away, but into mist, into you. You step forward. Some traditions say this gate is the first trial, not a test of worth, but a test of presence. Only those who remember themselves, not their ego, not their title, but their core, may pass. Others believe the gate is not real at all, but a mirror. That the soul must recognize itself to continue. That forgetting is not punished, but it delays the journey. You feel the truth of both. Behind you, the gate reforms. Ahead, the path opens. No sound, no guide, just trust. You step forward, and the world subtly changes. The air grows warmer, the sky softens to deep lapis, and in the distance, a gentle gleam begins to approach. It moves not across the ground, but above it. A boat. Golden, delicate, silent. It drifts toward you, as if summoned by your breath. And though no one rows it, you feel its invitation. You step aboard. The boat tilts slightly, then steadies. You sit. And the river begins to move. Not fast, not slow, but precisely. You look back once. The gate stands tall, humming quietly in the mist. Not a barrier, a promise. And ahead, beyond the bend of Starlight River, your journey begins to unfold. The boat does not rock, it glides. Not over water, but through a liquid stillness that holds shape like silk. Every ripple you imagine is immediately absorbed. The river is not a surface, it is a memory made navigable. You rest your hands on the rim of the boat. The gold is not cold, not metallic. It feels like warm parchment or sunlit wood long bathed in incense. It's light enough to float on intention. Above, the sky is vast but intimate. Stars drift slowly in curving arcs. They do not blink. They watch. You are not the only one who has taken this journey. And you are not the first to look up at these same stars and feel yourself being read. The boat doesn't ask you where you are going, because it knows. Some traditions describe this bark as the Henu boat, which carried souls across the celestial Nile. A sacred vessel not made of reeds or wood, but of divine thought. Each soul rides a version of it, each one shaped by who they were and who they are becoming. Others argue that the boat is symbolic, a metaphor for surrender. A soul cannot walk to the afterlife. It must be carried by stillness. You lean back. The river narrows into a corridor framed by stone. Massive statues line the banks, some jackal-headed, some hawk-eyed, some cloaked in silence. They don't move, but they are not still. They are listening, not to your voice, to your weight. The weight of choices you forgot had consequences. The weight of tenderness you offered when no one saw. The weight of promises you broke gently. As you drift forward, you begin to feel lighter. Not in body, in mind, in spirit. Because here, you are not trying to be good. You are trying to be true, and that changes everything. Ahead, the boat slows, not stops, just steadies, as though preparing for something sacred. You look to the horizon and see the faint shimmer of flame, not fire, but the glow of presence. A structure rises, a wide hall, columns etched with light, and at its base, A landing carved from obsidian. You know this place, even if you've never seen it. It is where the truth is not spoken aloud. It is where the truth is known. The Hall of Two Truths. And you are almost there. The boat kisses the shore without sound. You step out, not with ceremony, but with ease, like walking into a temple that has been waiting for you. Not in urgency, but in patience. The landing is smooth, cool beneath your feet. Each step sends soft ripples through the mist that coats the stone, though no water flows here. It's memory again, draped across this place like linen across a resting body. You lift your eyes. The hall looms ahead, but it does not intimidate. It welcomes. Its columns stretch upward into the sky like fluted prayers. Carvings cover them, rows of glyphs you can almost read. They shift slightly as you pass, forming scenes not from mythology, but from you. Not the events, the meanings, the feeling of a choice made in silence, the echo of a look held longer than expected, the surrender you offered in the middle of a grief too vast for words. These memories flicker, not to shame you, but to remind you, you were always being recorded. Not by eyes, by presence. You pass through the threshold, and the Hall of Two Truths opens around you, wide, high, still. The air is golden here, not with light, but with equilibrium. The kind of stillness that makes you want to breathe slower, walk quieter, speak only when it is needed. You are not alone. Figures line the sides of the hall, some robed in shadow, others luminous. But all are silent. They are not here to judge. They are here to witness. A raised platform waits ahead. Between two tall pillars stands a scale so massive, so balanced, that it looks as though it could hold a planet on either side, and still not tip. You pause. And then a rustle. Not cloth, not wind. Feathers. From the far side of the hall, a figure steps forward, slender, elegant, with the head of an ibis and skin like painted clay, glowing faintly with inked symbols. Thoth, the divine scribe, the one who records not for reward or punishment, but for truth's own keeping. He approaches with calm, no rush. He carries a scroll that unrolls behind him as he walks, words forming in real time, not in language, in understanding. He looks at you and nods, as if to say, you are not being measured by your greatness. You are being measured by your balance. And suddenly, you understand. The hall is not testing you. It is inviting you to finally meet yourself. Thoth gestures with one long hand, and the scroll rolls forward of its own accord, coiling gently at your feet. The script glows faintly, gold on gold, each symbol a whisper from your life, a breath caught in ink. You do not try to read it, because you already know what it says. Not the facts, not the stories, but the rhythm, the texture, the truth behind your decisions, behind your hesitations, behind every small act that changed the shape of a day. And now the scribe steps back, not away, just aside, as though making space for something older than law. The mist in the hall thickens for a moment, and a breeze moves through it, low and steady. You feel it in your bones, though your bones are not here. You feel it in your soul, where the weight still lives. And then, stepping forward from the shadows, Anubis, jackal-headed, tall, still, draped in cloth the color of midnight. His eyes do not glow. They simply know. He does not speak. He does not smile, but his presence radiates trust. The kind of trust that can only come from having seen every kind of soul and still choosing to offer a steady hand. Some traditions say Anubis is the psychopomp, the guide of the dead. But others say he is more than a guide. He is the guardian of transition, the still point between the end of a life and the beginning of eternity. He carries nothing in his hands, yet as he approaches, something rises from within you. It lifts, gentle and luminous. Not your body, not your breath, your heart. It floats between you and him, pulsing with light, not blood, not memory, but meaning. The color of copper, the glow of embers. He receives it with reverence. No scales yet, no feather, just a quiet moment of offering. Your heart, all that you've been. Held, not judged. Anubis bows his head slightly, and you feel it settle. You are now ready to be weighed. Anubis turns. The heart in his hands hovers just above his palms, cradled by nothing visible. Yet it does not fall. It pulses slowly, like a lantern swaying underwater. And as he walks toward the center of the hall, it follows him, weightless, yet waiting. You follow too, not because you are told to, because the moment has arrived. The platform rises ahead, sleek obsidian carved into a perfect rectangle. Upon it rests the great scales. They do not gleam. They do not shine. They simply exist. Balanced. Impossibly still. Their arms stretch outward in perfect symmetry, ending in two shallow golden bowls. One waits for your heart. The other waits for a feather. Ma'at's feather. You approach slowly, and you begin to feel what you carry. Not shame, not pride, but substance. The substance of moments, countless, ordinary, and sacred. The time you said yes when it mattered. The time you said nothing and let the silence do the healing. The time you didn't show up and the time you did. Your heart carries all of this, not as guilt, as gravity. Some say the heart is the record of the soul, that it stores not thoughts, but the impressions of every decision, that it remembers in ways the mind never could. And now, that remembering is being placed. Anubis lowers your heart into the left bowl. There is no clank, no sound at all, just a faint hum, as if the scales themselves have recognized the arrival of something significant. Then from the far side of the platform, a gust of wind that doesn't move air, it moves meaning, and with it, a single white feather floats into the space. It is not carried, it is not pushed, it simply glides and lands in the other bowl. It doesn't twitch, it doesn't glow, it simply is. Some scholars debate whether this feather was ever meant to be literal, whether it was symbolic of Ma'at's 42 laws, or of a more essential harmony between the soul and the world. Others say that the feather isn't measured against the heart, but with it, together forming a rhythm, a resonance. The bowls remain still, and then the hall shifts, not visibly, not structurally, energetically. The walls grow quiet in a different way, not from lack of sound, from anticipation. The scales are beginning to sense, not weight, but truth. And the heart, still pulsing, waits to see if it is heavier than what it once knew to be light. The scales do not move right away. They consider, not as machines do, but as presence does. There is a kind of breath in the space now, collective, unseen, shared by every carved wall, every waiting witness. The feather lies perfectly still. Your heart hovers in its bowl, not trembling, not resisting. And somewhere, deep beneath it all, the balance begins to test its first ripple. A tilt? A memory? A truth? You feel the sensation before you see anything shift. It's like a soft vibration through the bones you no longer carry. A distant bell that only your soul can hear. And then the feather bowl moves. Barely. Just the breath of a tilt. It lowers a fraction, and your heart responds, rising not out of superiority but out of release. The scales tremble, then steady. You are not being weighed like metal. You are being understood like music. Each kindness you gave is a tone. Each moment of honesty is a rest. Each time you held back cruelty becomes a pause in the rhythm. The scale doesn't count. It listens. And you begin to understand why no one has spoken since you entered this hall. Because truth, in this place, is not something you say. It is something you embody. Across the chamber, a figure stirs. You've seen her in papyrus scrolls, on temple walls, in art and amulet. She steps forward now, tall and composed. A single white ostrich feather crowns her brow. Ma'at, the embodiment of balance, of truth, of rightness. Her face is calm, not warm, not cold, simply present. She approaches the scale and extends one hand over it, not to interfere, but to acknowledge, to say, yes, this soul belongs here. Some traditions claim Ma'at herself chooses whether to accept the results, that if she finds the heart's intentions to echo her own, the tilt becomes irrelevant. Others believe she never interferes, that she only observes, trusting the process she set into motion at the beginning of time. You feel her gaze now, not on your face, on your essence, and you feel something loosen inside your chest, as though the parts of you that tried too hard to be good finally understand. They only ever needed to be balanced. The feather settles once more. Your heart pulses, lighter now, as if it has exhaled centuries. And the scale begins to hum again. A new note, low, reverent, and unmistakably aligned. The note lingers. It's not sung by any voice in the chamber. It comes from the scale itself, from the union of heart and feather. A resonance neither high nor low, but centered, grounded, complete. It vibrates through the stone beneath your feet, through the pillars, through the carved eyes of the gods lining the walls. The hall of two truths hums, not with judgment, but with recognition. Thoth pauses. His scroll continues writing, though his hand rests. The ink flows from the tip of his quill as if poured by memory itself. He looks at you, not for your reaction, but to reflect what the moment means. No words, no verdict, just a silent confirmation. This happened, and it mattered. You glance at the scales again. They are still, balanced, not in perfection, in honesty. Somewhere to your left, a low growl rises, not harsh, not violent. You turn, and there she is. Ammit, the Devourer, crocodile jaws, lion's shoulders, hippo's weight. A creature born from the most powerful fears of your former world. But she does not growl at you. She yawns and settles again, because she has no use for what you've brought here. You are not her feast. You are not unfinished. You are, for now, beyond her hunger. Ancient texts describe Ammit as the eater of unworthy hearts, but not as a villain, as a necessity, a threshold, a kindness misunderstood by those who thought endings were always cruel. You meet her eyes. They are not wild. They are patient, and maybe a little tired, because she too only wants what is true. You bow, not out of fear, but out of gratitude. She does not nod, but she does not vanish. She remains, waiting for another who may not remember as much as you have. The chamber feels wider now, lighter. You feel it in your own being, how the space around your name has softened, how your breath has stopped echoing and simply exists. And then Mayat raises her hand. Just once, the feather lifts from the scale, not with wind, but with will. It floats upward, glides toward you, and brushes your chest, right over the place where your heart once lived. And just like that, your balance becomes yours again. The feather touches your chest, and something within you stirs. It's not a sensation. It's not a thought. It's a memory of stillness you didn't know you had. The feather lingers there, not resting, not pressing, simply existing, exactly where it's meant to be. And as it hovers, a warmth spreads from the center of your being outward, not heat, but harmony. You are no longer watching the weighing. You are carrying it, not as a burden, but as a rhythm. Your breath aligns with it. Your presence adapts to it. You are not lighter or heavier. You are simply true. The feather dissolves into light and becomes part of you, not absorbed, not stolen, joined. Some say that when a heart is found to be in balance with Ma'at, the feather of truth becomes a part of the soul. That from that moment forward, the individual does not live truth, but is truth, woven into their essence. Others whisper of a more symbolic merging, that the feather's contact is a final benediction, a sealing of the soul's alignment before it walks into eternity. You are glowing now, not with light that others can see, but with clarity. And the scales, having served their purpose, begin to vanish. Not collapse, not break. Simply withdraw. They fold into themselves like a story that has been told well and is now returning to silence. Anubis steps forward. He does not speak, but his gaze holds something new. Respect? Maybe. Relief? Perhaps. Companionship? Closer. He gestures once, toward a passage behind the scales that had not existed until now. A wide corridor draped in soft gold light, leading somewhere you cannot yet name. You take a step, and then another. Each footfall lands without sound, but leaves behind a quiet intention. I am moving forward. The air is thinner here, but also more complete. You are not forgetting. You are unfolding. Somewhere behind you, Ammit shifts again. Her tail curls, her body settles. She sleeps. The weighing is done. You are still yourself. But something has been shed, or maybe revealed. You pass through the corridor. The stone turns to reed, the reed to water, the water to light. And then, you emerge into a place that does not echo, because in this place, there is no need to call out. The truth walks with you, now, always. The corridor leads into openness. not just in space, but in feeling. It's like stepping into the breath between heartbeats, the pause after the final note of a song, where nothing more needs to be said. The light here is soft and weightless, not coming from above or behind, but from within everything it touches. Even your shadow glows faintly, like a memory of warmth. Ahead, the path bends around a wide basin of still water. Its surface reflects not your face, but your essence. A swirl of gold and deep indigo. A rhythm rather than a shape. You kneel beside the pool. You do not need to look into it. You feel its message radiating upward. This is a place where the soul settles, where balance is no longer questioned, only integrated. A tree grows nearby, wide, low branches, leaves that don't move but shimmer. You sit beneath it, and for the first time since you stepped into this journey, you close your eyes. Not in fear, not in preparation, in peace. You inhale, and something stirs in the space around you. Not a presence, a return. It feels like the reunion of pieces long separated. The part of you that loved gently, the part that grieved privately, the part that tried, even when it didn't succeed. They're all here now, under this tree, beside this mirror water, finally breathing together. Some ancient texts say that after the weighing, the soul must sit still. Still enough for the spirit to drink in what has happened. A recentering, a final becoming. Others describe this place as the Garden of the Ka, where essence is fed once more with light, memory, and rest. You place your hand on the ground. It pulses beneath your fingers, not with life as you knew it, but with presence. There is no more journey to chase, only a presence to allow. And in that presence, you begin to wonder, not what you were, not even what comes next, but who you are when there is nothing left to prove. The answer is not a sentence. It is the silence that surrounds you now. Whole, held, heard. You remain beneath the tree, not waiting, not planning, just breathing. The leaves above don't rustle, but they shimmer in pulses, slow, radiant, like the echo of a heartbeat spread across sky. Each pulse seems to say, "You are here. You are here." The pool beside you no longer reflects light. It reflects truth. You lean slightly toward it, and the surface begins to ripple, not from wind, but from memory reawakening. You see yourself, but not a body. A collection of patterns, gestures, longings. The way you laughed when no one watched. The silence you held when others needed space. The tears you let fall only when the world was quiet. The water shows it all. And still, it does not judge. It only shows you what has always been. This is where the soul learns what the scale already knew, that your weight is not your burden, it is your depth. A gentle breeze circles you now, curling up from the ground, lifting nothing, disturbing nothing. It carries no scent, but it feels like words. And within that breeze, something arrives. A presence. Not a god, not a spirit. A voice. Not heard. Felt. It brushes across your chest and back, like a warm hand resting where wings might grow. And then, with softness so complete it almost disappears into itself. It speaks, not as sound, but as certainty. You were always enough. The words settle into your spine. They require no reply, Some teachings say Ma'at does not simply weigh the heart. She accompanies it afterward, not as judge or ruler, but as balance itself living within the soul from that moment onward. You understand this now, because the voice is not Ma'at, it's you, with her inside you. You are no longer journeying toward alignment. You are carrying it. You stand again, not because you must, but because something in you is ready to move with intention. A gate forms on the far edge of the basin, woven not from stone or gold, but from light braided with silence. You step toward it, and the water behind you becomes still. A witness, a mirror, a memory. The voice lingers like sunlight behind your shoulder. Go now and carry balance into becoming. And so you do. You walk through the braided light, and the gate gives way not into another chamber, but into something quieter. Not darker, just deeper. The air is softer here, less shaped. It feels like the inside of a breath held just before speaking, like the pause between waves, like the exact moment when a thought becomes a choice. You are not surrounded by architecture anymore. You are surrounded by presence. It moves with you, not ahead or behind, but within. You're not sure how you're still walking, but each step feels real, not physical, but anchored, as if your soul is now its own compass. Ahead, you begin to see shapes emerge from the dim golden mist. Not buildings, not people, symbols, spirals in the air, lattices of light suspended like woven constellations. As you pass beneath one, it pulses, and suddenly, you remember something. Not an event, a truth. The time you stood at a window and forgave someone without ever telling them. The way your breath steadied when you chose to stay silent and listen. These are not memories, they are foundations. Your soul, it seems, is made of such moments. And here, in this woven passage of truths, they are being returned to you, one by one, gently, lovingly, like garments you forgot you ever wore. You pass a spiral etched with the scent of your grandmother's hands, another with the color of a sky you once looked at when you realized you were safe. They don't ask to be held. They simply join you, folded into your step. Some Egyptian texts suggest that after the weighing, the soul walks through a space known only to it, a corridor of becoming, shaped by its own resonance. Others describe it as a labyrinth of memory and silence, where the soul is neither tested nor taught, but revealed. You feel that now. The farther you walk, the more complete you feel. Not because you're gaining something, but because you're remembering what was always yours. And then, without warning, the path opens. A wide space. Still. Circular. In the center, a bowl of light. Hovering. Waiting. You know what this is. It is the choice, to rush to return or to rest, and it will wait as long as you need. You approach the bowl of light slowly, not because you're unsure, but because it feels sacred. The kind of sacred that doesn't demand reverence, but invites presence. It hovers just above the floor. If this space even has a floor, the mist beneath your feet holds you like a gentle stream, and the bowl floats as if held by a breath. Within it, light swirls. Not blinding, not harsh, just alive. You don't reach out, you simply listen. And in the silence, something stirs. Not a voice, not an image, a question. Not asked in words, but in feeling. Will you stay? The question doesn't tug at you. It doesn't trap. It waits, and it's not binary. Stay as what? As who? Some traditions speak of this moment as a crossroad. The soul, now balanced, can choose to remain in stillness, to return to the world of form, or to rise beyond it entirely, into the arms of the eternal. Others say there is no true choice, only readiness. You gaze into the bowl, and within the light, shapes begin to form. You see a face, not fully formed, but familiar. It may be a child not yet born. It may be you, reborn. It may be a memory you never lived, but always longed for. The bowl shows you what could be, not in promise, but in offering. You kneel beside it, and as your fingers drift near the edge, you feel the warmth rise. Not heat, but recognition. You close your eyes and breathe. And in that breath, you feel 3 possibilities open within you. 1, to become light and rise beyond this cycle. 2, to rest here in the garden of completion. 3, to return, to try again, to love again, to carry balance into a world that forgets. And your heart, light, steady, still carrying Ma'at's feather within it, does not tremble. It listens. The bowl does not pressure you, but it responds to what is already forming in your core. A pulse, a yes, not shouted, not even spoken, but lived. The light folds in around your hands, and the bowl begins to vanish, not into air, into you. And the choice? It has already been made. The moment the bowl disappears, the room shifts, not in structure, in atmosphere. It is as if something delicate, something eternal, has turned to face you fully for the first time. You haven't been alone, but now the presence becomes undeniable. You are being seen, not observed, received. The light moves differently now. It coils upward, slow and spiraling, forming shapes that never settle. Wings, smoke, petals, wind. You rise. You are no longer walking forward. You are rising into form. But not a form you wore before, a new one, chosen. Some traditions say that after the soul chooses to return, the gods craft the new path from the threads of intention, like weaving a vessel from starlight and breath. Others believe the soul simply falls, tethered again to the pull of the physical world by longing. You feel neither fall nor pull. You feel direction. A current, soft and certain, moving through you, not away from the hall, but into you. Your breath deepens. Though you are not breathing air, you are breathing memory, possibility. A soft warmth wraps around you now. At first you think it is a robe, then a breeze, then a skin. But it is none of those. It is you, taking shape again. Not fully, not completely, just enough. Your edges begin to shimmer. Your thoughts grow quieter, because soon they will be shaped by neurons and voice. But for now, you are still aware. You carry the balance within you. The garden still glows behind your eyes. The feather still rests in your chest. The heart, rebuilt from silence and honesty, beats not with rhythm, but with readiness. You do not rush. This is not a race. It is a re-entry. And you're beginning to feel the veil approaching. The soft film that separates soul from incarnation. You reach for nothing, Yet the veil comes to you, like warm water, like sleep, like a mother's breath over your cheek, and as it touches your face, you remember how forgetting begins. Gently, the veil does not fall, it folds. Over your skin, over your thoughts, over the spaces where your light once stretched into the infinite. It does not take anything from you. It softens what you carry. As it draws close, the edges of who you are become blurred, but not erased. More like written in water instead of stone. You are still rising, still returning, but now you feel something else brushing against your awareness. Time, not as a ticking, but as a tide. It circles your ankles, pulls gently at your form, whispering reminders that once you pass through the veil, things will change. The names, the memories, the clarity, but not the core, not the balance. That remains. Some believe the veil of forgetting is mercy, that the soul cannot hold the full memory of where it's been and still function in the density of a body. Others say the forgetting is choice, that the soul wants the challenge of remembering again, of choosing light without guarantee, of rediscovering truth in the absence of stars. You pause, because the veil is so close now. You can see the shadows moving on the other side. Patterns, colors, maybe even faces. You don't reach out, but something on the other side seems to reach for you. And in this liminal place, between knowing and forgetting, you feel your last full self gather. All your tenderness, all your learning, all your love, you gather it not to carry it intact, but to plant it like a seed in your next life. You do not need to remember it for it to bloom. That is the gift of the soul. You inhale one last breath that belongs to this realm, and the veil touches your forehead. Not a curtain, a kiss. It drapes over you like warmth, and the light around you begins to dim, not into darkness, but into form. And soon, the world will greet you with a cry, and the soul will answer with a whisper. Again, the veil settles fully now, and the world becomes quiet in a different way. Not the sacred stillness of the Hall of Two Truths, not the soft hush of starlit gardens. This is the hush of becoming, of translation, of soul into matter. And you are the poem. You feel yourself narrowing, not in limitation, but in clarity. The vastness of your knowing condenses, like a star folding itself gently into flame. There is pressure, but it's not pain, it's purpose. The memory of light begins to slip. Edges first, then shapes, then names. You no longer recall the scales, or the scroll, or even the boat. But their impression remains, a balance behind your breath, a feather beneath your ribs, a presence just behind your heartbeat. Somewhere far above, though above no longer means much, your old self watches you descend. Not as a guardian, not as a judge, as a witness. And that self smiles, because it remembers this part, the narrowing, the folding, the gift of unknowing. Some say the soul chooses the conditions of its next life. Others say it is chosen for them, a weaving of karma and need, of storylines not yet told. But here, in this moment, none of that matters. You are ready. Ready to forget enough that you can rediscover. Ready to become small enough to learn again. To reach out again. To love, even without memory of why. You feel warmth now, a pulse, a sound that is not a voice but a rhythm. Heartbeat, not yours, but the one that will carry you. Soon your body will form around that sound. Your thoughts will emerge from cells and sparks, but your soul, your balance, will sleep beneath it all, waiting. Until one day, years from now, you will look at the sky or hear a melody or sit quietly near water and remember. Not everything, just enough. Enough to choose light, enough to live with your feather hidden, but whole. You are almost there. One more breath, and then the world begins again. The world doesn't arrive in a flash, it seeps in. Sound first, the hush of heartbeat, the rhythm of breath, a muffled ocean that exists entirely within. You are not quite formed, but you are forming. Cells whisper to one another, crafting structure, weaving motion. You are not watching this happen. You are this happening. Light flickers at the edges of unshaped vision. Color hasn't arrived yet, but tone has. Deep reds, soft golds, something warm and round. The world is a womb, but also a threshold. You are not born. You are becoming. You float, curled in yourself, like a secret waiting to be told. And deep within this not yet body, something stirs. Not fear, not thought. Balance, that small sleeping center where the feather rests. Not separate, not remembered, but present. Some teachings say the soul imprints itself into the developing body like light behind skin. Quiet, constant, shaping direction from within. Others say the body is like clothing the soul tries on, adjusting, settling into the unfamiliar fabric of time and emotion. You begin to feel the shape of things. Limbs, heartbeat, the tug of gravity, faint and unfamiliar. You do not resist it. You lean into it, because the weight of the world is not punishment. It is opportunity. To feel again, to lose and find again, to laugh without knowing why, to fall and rise and fall again, and to carry the balance through it all like a lantern wrapped in silence. Inside this womb of light and blood, you are neither human nor spirit. You are bridge, and somewhere the veil sighs around you, already beginning to dissolve. Soon there will be a moment. One inhale, one cry, one flash of brightness, and the world will say, "You have arrived." But for now, you float, whole, unrushed, and perfect in your not-yetness. The pressure builds, not pain, not struggle, just the steady coiling of something that must become something else. The hush within the womb grows denser, more rhythmic. You're aware of your pulse now, not the one echoing from outside, but your own. Faint, courageous, ready. You turn gently, as if guided by the memory of movement. Not memory from this life, older, from every life. A turning that leads to opening, a movement toward breath. Somewhere in the distance of flesh and time, voices are preparing. Not in fear, in welcome. You do not hear them clearly, but their warmth begins to shape your edges. Their anticipation becomes your gravity. You are being pulled, not downward, into being. Some say the soul arrives in the body with the first breath. Others say it enters before, guiding the vessel from within. But there is agreement on one thing. The soul arrives on purpose, not randomly, not reluctantly. You are not an accident of biology. You are a return, a spiral rejoining its curve. And here it comes. That moment of compression, of narrowing, of transition from timelessness to ticking clocks. The world is so close now. It vibrates against the veil like light behind thin curtains. And then, a rush, not of noise, but of knowing. You do not remember your name. You do not remember the scales, the feather, the halls, the tree, but your balance remains. Tucked deep inside, quieter than language, lighter than breath. The light flashes, the warmth tightens, and with a sudden gasp of air that has never touched your lungs before, you arrive. Somewhere someone is crying with joy, and so are you. Your cry is the oldest song, the sound of the soul saying, "I'm here." You open your eyes and see everything for the first time. Again, the world greets you with light you cannot yet name. It floods your senses, not in chaos, but in clarity. Every color feels louder. Every texture speaks a language your soul is trying to relearn. Your body is small, but your presence is vast. You have no words, but you are not without knowing. A pair of hands cradles you. A voice hums near your ear. Not a melody, but a reminder. The tone vibrates something deep within your chest, where the feather of Ma'at lies folded, invisible, unforgotten. You are seen. And in that first gaze, whoever they are, whatever their story, you feel the first stitch being sewn. The stitching of self. Not ego, not identity, but path. Some traditions say the soul enters quietly, hiding beneath the ribs, behind the eyes, waiting. Others say it dances in and out of the child for weeks, adjusting to the density, softening its light so it can stay. You are not fixed in place yet. You flicker. Between presence and mystery. Between now and before. Your tiny fingers curl, not around meaning, but around warmth. And your breath, so new, so shallow, is a kind of prayer the body doesn't know it's saying. And still, you forget. The scales, the garden, Thoth's eyes, Anubis's hands. You forget them all. But what they gave you, the balance, remains. Not as memory, as tuning. You are tuned to justice without knowing law. You are tuned to compassion without needing reason. You are tuned to truth without needing proof. And in the soft days ahead, when no one speaks your language yet, your soul will still hum, in your laugh, in your sleep, in the way your eyes linger just a moment longer on the stars. You are here now, not as someone who knows everything, but as someone who has chosen to learn again. And in this breath, in this moment, you are perfect. Time begins to move now. Slowly at first, measured in feedings, in cradle songs, in the rise and fall of lullabies. But even in this soft rhythm, something ancient in you stirs. The soul watches through your eyes, learning again how to see. A face hovers above yours. It smiles. It repeats the same sounds again and again, hoping you'll remember what they mean. You don't. But the tone, the warmth, it wraps around you like the garden once did. You respond with a coo, not because you understand, but because something inside you recognizes the shape of love. And so, your forgetting deepens. The more you settle into the world, the more the details of before fade. Not as punishment, not as loss, but as making space. The soul knows that to fully enter a life, it must first become small. And so it tucks its memories into your fingertips, into your pulse, into the space between your thoughts. You won't recall the weighing of the heart. But one day, when you feel a choice rise within you, between cruelty and kindness, you'll hesitate. And in that hesitation, the feather will tremble. You won't know why you choose compassion. You just will. Some say the gods do not abandon the soul after its return, that they walk quietly beside you, veiled, speaking through dreams, nudging through synchronicities. Others claim that once the soul re-enters the cycle, it is fully on its own, trusted to live the balance it once carried. You are not alone, but neither are you being led. You are remembering. In 1,000 quiet ways. In the way your hand reaches for the light. In the way you fall asleep facing west. In the way you pause before stepping on a spider. These are not instincts. They are echoes. You are echoing who you've always been. And life, like a vast sea, waits to reflect that song back to you. One ripple at a time, you begin to dream now. Not the fragmented flickers of muscle memory or image stitching, but the deep mythic dreaming of the soul, a place where truth wears symbols and silence speaks. In your sleep, the world around you recedes, and something more familiar stirs beneath your skin. You are not in a crib. You are floating again, not in womb, not in water, but in story. The kind of dream where a lion speaks your name, where feathers grow from your back, where a staircase of light winds up into the sky and you climb it without legs. These dreams are not fantasy. They are remembering. Somewhere in the depth of night, your soul revisits the echo of its own weighing. Not to judge again, just to feel the balance once more. A feather drifts across your sleeping chest. It is not visible. But your breath changes slightly when it touches. You inhale and the memory of stillness enters. You exhale and something old and sacred leaves your lungs like mist. Some say children's dreams are not theirs alone, that the soul weaves its past lessons into them, like planting seeds in moonlight. Others suggest dreams are training grounds, spiritual rehearsal spaces where the self explores its unfinished business before waking. Either way, you do not resist them. You smile sometimes in sleep, or furrow your brow, or let out a soft sigh that sounds like something ancient passing through. This is how the soul speaks when the mind is too young for language. This is how balance roots itself. You are not aware of it yet. But every night, the gods you once stood beside visit you in your sleep. Not to guide, but to witness. To see how your light remembers itself in the dark. And you are remembering. Slowly, quietly, perfectly. The days stretch longer now. You crawl, then stand, then walk. Each act a miracle, though you never call it that. Muscles strengthen, words tumble from your lips, laughter ripples through rooms. And behind every action, the quiet soul watches. It watches how you hold the world, how you explore softness, how you react to pain. It does not interfere. But when you stop, mid-step, mid-play, mid-sentence, and gaze at nothing in particular, it leans forward. Because in those moments, you are close. Close to the veil. You've seen children stop mid-laughter and grow suddenly solemn, their eyes fixed on a corner of air. What are they seeing? Some traditions say these are memories bleeding through, past life impressions filtering up through the mind's early openness. Others believe children speak to spirit guides freely, unbothered by disbelief, their innocence still tethered to the eternal. You don't need to know. You just need to feel it. And sometimes, when no one is looking, you hum melodies no one taught you. You draw spirals and feathers. You look at your hands as if they've held things before. Because they have. Not in this life, but in others. You don't need the story to carry the signature. You don't need the memory to carry the truth. And as you grow, the soul settles deeper into the body. Not trapped, not caged, but woven. You learn the rules of the world, and you learn when to break them with kindness. You notice things others don't. How shadows fall, how silence echoes, how sadness smells like old paper. And in these observations, the soul speaks, not in volume, in resonance. You begin to feel what is true even before it's explained. You begin to sense when someone is hurting, even if they smile. And though you forget the weighing, the garden, the gate of braided light, you live like someone who remembers them somehow. Because you do. You start asking questions, not just, what is this? Why? Or why does it rain? But the quieter, more inconvenient ones. Where did I come from? Why do people go away? Why do I feel things no one talks about? Adults answer with stories or silence, but your soul listens deeper, because it remembers that truth is not always spoken, it's felt. And sometimes, the absence of an answer is more powerful than the answer itself. You begin to notice contradictions. People say one thing and do another. They ask you to be kind, but speak sharply. They say, don't cry, when tears are what your body needs most. And so, slowly, you begin to forget how to trust your instincts. Not because you want to, because the world is louder than your soul. For now, some teachings claim that the soul dims its own voice during childhood, allowing the ego to form, the mind to sharpen, the personality to emerge. Others say the soul whispers constantly, but the world teaches us to stop listening. You don't stop entirely, but the whispers grow fainter. Still, in certain moments, when you're alone in nature, or just before sleep, or lost in a book, the soul leans close, and you feel it. The warmth behind your chest, the ache behind beauty, the sudden stillness that says, this matters. It's not guidance, it's recognition. You are being recognized by your own self. And though you begin to shape yourself to fit expectations, to earn approval, to avoid conflict, the feather remains, folded into your decisions. It trembles slightly when you lie. It steadies when you stand up for someone. You do not call it Ma'at. You do not remember her name. But she is still in your chest, still weighing, still waiting, not for judgment, for alignment. Your world expands now, schoolrooms, friendships, rules, and rewards. You begin to understand systems, expectations, the invisible scaffolding that holds daily life together. You learn how to navigate it, how to play roles, how to say what's expected, even when your truth pulls in another direction. And the soul? It doesn't resist. It observes. You may not hear it clearly anymore, but it has not left. It watches how you trade pieces of yourself for belonging. It sees the way your light bends to avoid conflict, not with judgment, with patience. Because it knows there will be moments, small, quiet moments, when you come back to yourself. A question you write in a margin, a hesitation before telling a convenient lie, a longing that rises for no reason while looking out a window. Some traditions suggest that adolescence is when the soul recedes deepest, buried under the noise of identity formation, social mimicry, and emotional overwhelm. Others believe this is when it stirs most violently, trying to break through the mask, pressing against the shell with flashes of passion and rebellion. You feel both. There are nights you lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering why you feel so heavy when nothing is wrong. There are days you want to disappear, not out of despair, but out of confusion. You miss something you can't name, and the feather, though still present, grows quieter, not from neglect, from waiting for you to return, to pause, to remember. Sometimes you write poems without knowing why. Sometimes you cry after music ends. These are the echoes, not of trauma, of truth. You are not lost. You are layered. And beneath it all, the balance remains. Patient, whole, still glowing softly behind your ribs. Still weighing, not your worth, but your willingness. Then comes the forgetting. Not in a single moment, but over many. A job that asks you to ignore your instincts. A relationship that rewards silence over truth. A culture that equates productivity with purpose. And so you shape yourself again. You tighten your light into something more marketable. You tuck away your wonder to seem more grounded. You trade awe for efficiency, mystery for certainty. You survive, but the soul doesn't shrink. It waits. Some say adulthood is the soul's greatest test, not because of hardship, but because of numbness. Because the noise becomes so constant, the feather's subtle tremble is harder to detect. Others argue that this is when the soul begins to burn from within, unable to remain hidden any longer. You begin to feel it in strange ways. A restlessness on the commute. A pull toward the forest you haven't walked since childhood. A sadness that arrives, not tied to any event. Just a quiet grief, like the memory of light fading from a room you once loved. The feather stirs. You feel it during decisions you can't explain, only feel. Like saying no to something perfect on paper. Like leaving a conversation feeling heavier, even though everyone smiled. You start to seek again, not for answers, for alignment. And in doing so, you unknowingly begin to return. The same way the soul once drifted down from the garden, you now drift upward from the noise. You stop scrolling mid-sentence and stare at a candle. You cry watching a bird land in silence. You speak your truth, even when it costs you. And in those moments, Ma'at breathes again in your bones. Not as law, as remembrance. The soul is never lost, only covered. And now, you are uncovering, one truth at a time. It begins slowly, this return. Not dramatic, not cinematic, just a soft unfolding. You start to walk differently, not in posture, but in presence. You enter rooms without rushing. You leave conversations with silence instead of noise. You are no longer looking for meaning in every corner. You are becoming the meaning. The soul notices, not because it was ever gone, but because you're finally listening again. And it speaks in subtler ways now. A tension in the chest before you say yes to something that doesn't feel right. A sudden stillness before you speak. A feather brushing gently against your decisions. Some teachings say this stage of life is where integration begins. The merging of ego and soul, of timeline and eternity. Others say the gods walk closest to us here, just beyond the veil, nudging us toward balance like wind through trees. You begin to declutter, Not your house, but your spirit. You let go of beliefs that no longer serve you. You stop fighting to prove things that don't matter. You forgive without being asked. You wake up before your alarm and watch the sun rise. Not because it's new, but because you are. The feather in your heart doesn't glow, but it guides. You start to feel it when your actions align with truth. Like your whole chest expands, light and quiet and sure. And when you stray, you feel it contract. Not with shame, with invitation to return. You're not trying to be good anymore. You're trying to be whole. The memories don't return as images. They return as habits. You move through the world with more reverence, more softness. You pause more often. You speak less, but when you do, it lands. You begin to live like someone who's been here before. Because you have. And your soul is no longer whispering. It's singing. You begin to recognize others. Not in the way memory works, but in the way the soul does. You meet someone new, and your chest flutters. Not with romance, but with recognition. You've shared something before. Not names, not stories, but perhaps a silence. A gaze across time. A promise beneath the veil. They speak, and something in you softens. You walk past a stranger, and for a second the world slows. The light bends oddly. You feel seen without explanation. These aren't coincidences. They're alignments. Some say we travel through lifetimes with soul groups, spirits who return to us in new forms, to help us grow, to test us, to remind us. Others suggest these are fragments of your own soul, echoes that have split and scattered, now returning like birds to a common sky. You do not need to know which is true. You only need to notice how your heart responds. Not with longing, with recognition. You begin to realize that truth is relational, not in the facts we carry, but in the feeling that arises when something deep in us is met. And you become a meeting point. People feel safe around you now, not because you have answers, but because your presence doesn't demand masks. You listen differently. You hear what isn't said. And the feather in your heart grows quietly radiant. You no longer question its existence. You simply trust its weight. You become the kind of person who blesses others without trying, just by being, just by holding balance. And some nights, before sleep, you feel the garden again. A breeze that has no source, a hush that feels like home. You do not remember the scales, but your choices weigh lighter now, because you are no longer measuring what you might lose. You are measuring what aligns. And so you shine, softly, steadily. The soul no longer stirs from below, it radiates through. Your body becomes a lantern, not to show others the way, but to show that light can live gently in form. You are not perfect, you are present. You've stopped chasing answers and started listening for better questions. Where does my joy rise most naturally? What quiet do I avoid, and why? What do I know that no one taught me? Some say this stage of life is when the soul hums its clearest notes, when the distractions no longer distract, and what remains is simple: kindness, rhythm, and presence. Others say the soul begins preparing even now for its departure, slowly withdrawing into stillness, lighting candles inside the chest. You feel both. You begin to live as if your breath counts in gold. You speak slower. You choose what you feed your mind. You feel more wonder in washing a dish than in reaching a milestone. Because the mundane is no longer empty, it's overflowing. And you begin to notice the invisible work your soul is always doing. It pauses before you speak to ask, is this necessary? It nudges your shoulder before you turn away from someone hurting. It hums when you rest. It quiets when you grasp. You begin to honor the pauses, the sacred timing of what arrives and what leaves. And the veil between this life and all the ones before, it grows thin in a new way, not from yearning, from readiness. You begin to sense that your time here is not infinite, but that doesn't make you rush. It makes you treasure. The way someone you love exhales, the curve of dusk light across a table, the peace of leaving something unsaid. Your balance is not perfect, but it is honest. And honesty, more than purity, is what the feather loves. There comes a day when you sit quietly and realize you are no longer seeking. You are not done growing, but you are no longer chasing. You have become the still water into which questions fall and ripple gently outward. The soul, once hidden in the chambers of your chest, now lives openly in your eyes, in your silence, in your walk. You feel it when you wake. You feel it when you grieve. You feel it most in the in-between places, thresholds, hallways, doorframes, dreams. And the veil? You see it now, not as a wall, but as a shimmer, a softness that moves between this world and the next. You do not fear it. You bless it, because it is how you came, and it is how you will leave. Some say the moment of death begins long before the heart stops, that the soul begins its departure in tiny waves, when goodbyes come more easily, when sleep grows sweeter, when the body begins to loosen its grip. Others suggest the soul waits until the final breath, clinging to form as long as possible to complete its intention. You do not know which you will choose, but you do know this. You are not afraid. The feather is still there, still weighing each moment, still asking only one thing. Are you light enough to leave with grace? You think about the gardens sometimes, not as a memory, but as a pull. Like music you once knew, like the scent of rain on warm stone. You are not in a hurry. You do not wish to skip the end, but you are no longer holding on out of fear. You are holding space for this life, for this breath, and for the shimmering gate you will one day walk through, not as a stranger, but as someone who remembers their name. And so the end begins, but not as an ending, as a folding back. The same way you once descended into the body with a breath, you now feel the soul preparing to ascend, with silence. It does not rush. It does not weep. It gathers. You find yourself waking in the night, not anxious but alert, like something is calling you from across a river you've seen before. People speak to you more gently now, even if they don't know why. They linger longer in your presence. Perhaps they sense it too, the soft dimming of the veil, the return of the weightless balance. Some say the soul loosens its tether like a boat at dawn, gently lifting from the dock of the body. Others say it waits for invitation, for the heart to speak the final word. You do not know which is true. You only know this: you are not leaving anything behind. You are carrying it forward. The laughter, the ache, the kindness no one noticed, the pauses you honored, the balance you held in private. It all becomes your light. And as the moment nears, you feel no need to explain, no need to prove. The soul is not a resume. It is a rhythm. And yours is steady. You close your eyes not out of exhaustion, but because the inside of your eyelids now shows you more than the world does. And there it is, the feather, bright, weightless, resting in your chest, ready to bees. You exhale, not to die, to return, back through the veil, back through the shimmer, back into the garden. But this time, you remember, not the details, but the peace, the alignment. And somewhere beyond the gates, Ma'at smiles, because the truth was never in the judgment. It was always in the way you lived. The journey slows now. Let the breath fall softer. Let the body grow still. You've walked far, not in steps, but in stories. And every part of you that felt forgotten has been held tonight in the light of remembrance. There is no rush to return, no need to grasp the message. It will stay with you, in the hush between thoughts, in the kindness of your own noticing. If your eyelids are heavy, let them close. Let the sound of these words dissolve like mist in morning sun. You are not alone. You are never lost. You are held by a rhythm far older than time. And as your breath finds its natural pace, may your soul feel spacious. May your heart feel light. May your dreams carry you gently across the rivers of memory. And if you visit the garden tonight, may it feel familiar, like a place you've always known, because you have. So rest, beautiful soul. You've remembered more than you know. The feather is with you, always.